Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today is December 23rd. Since we're getting toward the end of the year, what I thought for this episode was I would go back into my archives and I would pull out one of my favorite episodes so far. In fact, this isn't just my favorite episode. This episode has been downloaded so many times. It's an interview I did with my friend Courtney Whitmore from the blog Pizzazzery. Courtney creates beautiful recipes. She's a cookbook writer. But what is most special about this interview is that Courtney does not undersell herself. In fact, she has some great advice on how she negotiates with brands and how she gets them to pay her what she thinks she deserves. I think it is enlightening, especially if in 2019 you want to be making more money, you want to position yourself with brands. I think you will get a lot out of it. So without further ado, here is my interview with Courtney Whitmore. So welcome to the show, Courtney.
Hi, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm so excited.
Courtney, you and I started around the same time. In fact, when we started Catch My Party, which is a site for people to add their party photos to our site, you were one of the first people to add your parties. So I have to say thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I remember, and I feel like it's been such a long journey, and it'll be 8 years for Pizzazzery next month, and so it's just so exciting to see kind of how we've grown, and especially how the entertaining blogger kind of industry has grown. It's been really fun.
Yes, and then we met in person about maybe 3 years ago at a conference.
Yes.
Remember
yes,
that?
Indeed.
And it was
so
like,
fun.
I love when you've known somebody online for so many years and I knew what you looked like because I've seen your pictures everywhere, and then all of a sudden I got to actually talk to you, and it was so fun and exciting.
This feeling just kind of in this blogging community, it's so crazy because you're like, hey girl, hey, I know you, I just talked to you on Gmail a minute ago. So
exactly.
There's really no difference. It's especially when this is kind of what we do full time. These are kind of like your coworkers. In some sense, I say that other bloggers are my coworkers because they get it and they do what we do, but we work mostly by ourselves. And so y'all are coworkers essentially.
Exactly. And there is this feeling of we get it, we understand it. And it's not, I would say, not competitive as much as it is there have been times where I've reached out to you, you've reached out to me to ask questions, or we did an Instagram share together. You use MiloTree on your site. So there's just this, this feeling I always find in my life when I explain what I do, people don't quite understand it. But then when I talk to somebody like you, we get it.
Yes, it's like a whole underworld of blogging confusion, and sometimes I'll have to email you and say, hey, what does this do, or what do I do here, because there aren't exactly textbooks, and so it's kind of learn as you go. So I'm so thankful that there are other people that do this so that I can ask questions and we can share information. So it's exciting.
Yes. So now tell me, how did you start? Because again, we started a while ago. So what inspired you? What is the story behind Pizzazzery?
Yes. So back in 2009, I was working at the Vanderbilt Career Center, and I was just not creatively fulfilled. I did not love it. I did not know what I really wanted to do, but I knew that was not it. I did not want to sit in a desk and work for someone else for 9 hours a day and then leave and go home and watch Lifetime movies and think, hey, is this it? Is this what my life is going to be like for the next, 50 years of working? And I didn't know a lot of people in Nashville at the time. A lot of my roommates from college had moved away. I was single at the time. So I started taking a painting class, and the girls at my painting class, I fell in love with them. They were just so sweet and so fun. And so I decided to throw my first dinner party. So I was now in a townhome that had a real dining room. So I invited those girls over, and we just had a dinner party, and I had more fun setting up the dinner party. Granted, I loved sitting at the dinner party, but for me, creatively, I had more fun setting it up and styling it. And I thought, maybe I could do this, but I didn't know if I wanted to be a party planner. So I'm thinking, well, then what else is there? So when I was researching ideas to set the table is when I popped up on a few blogs. Hostess with the Mostess was one of them. Thoughtfully Simple was another. There are a few blogs out there, not very many. And I thought, this is so fun that they take their pictures of their parties and they put them on there. And I thought, let me just see if I could do this. And again, this was such a little hobby. This was not meant to ever be full time. But I created the website. Again, it was not great looking 8 years ago. It was basic looking, got the job done. And I started uploading those photos and they weren't even great. Like, I think I probably took them with my BlackBerry, but I loved the community that was already kind of growing with food and entertaining bloggers. And I just hopped in, and Twitter was a big deal then. There was no Instagram. There was no Pinterest. It was Twitter and Facebook. And eventually I had some people want to advertise, and that was when you would sell banner ads by the month. And then I thought,
so you would put somebody would come to you and say, we want to put an ad up on your site.
Yes. And I would say, pull my big girl panties up and decide on a dollar amount. I'd be like, that'll be $5 a month. Like, I knew what I was doing, and then, so I thought, well, gosh, if I sell 10 of those, that's the rent or whatever, and I started adding it all up, and I thought maybe I could leave this job. And of course, my parents, who were just had helped me get through college and graduate school, really had no idea what a blog was and just did not want to hear it when I was describing it. They're like, Courtney, that's cute, but what are you doing? And so I started doing some local TV, and I had to kind of call in sick at the real job to get to go do that. And then finally it was just too much. But I would eat, sleep, and breathe this when I would leave my full-time job because I wanted it to work. And so finally, about 4 or 5 months later, that first July, I quit, and it was a leap of faith, but I just kept working on it. And through social media, a publisher contacted me, and then it led to book deals, and I just never stopped. I refused. I guess the fear of going back to a job that I did not love was paired with something that was obviously a creatively fulfilling job. That combo, the fear of going backwards, and then the fact that I did love what I was doing, that combo just was dynamite, and it kept me from ever just sitting around. And so I have never looked back. And thankfully, I always wonder, like, gosh, what if no brands want to work with me next year? Like, how am I going to make it? And thankfully, you just cross your fingers, and there's never been a time like that. And the industry's grown so much. So I've been very lucky that I have been able to ride this fun wave, and I hope it does not stop. It's been great.
I have a couple questions. The first one is, have you always been creative?
Yes, but not necessarily around tablescapes. So I've always been.
So wait, will you explain what a tablescape is?
Yes. So just the gorgeous setting down the table. So the place settings, the forks, the knives, the centerpieces, the flowers, that whole bit, and party food. So when you would set a gorgeous Christmas tablescape, down your dining room table. So I've always been creative, but not around that. So when I was in college or high school, I was not setting up tables. I didn't even have a table. I was, maybe it was painting, or it was making necklaces, or it was ceramics at summer camp. So I've always been crafty, but it was not until I had a dining room table and the ability to do tablescapes. But I grew up watching my mom essentially like Pinterest in a notebook. So she would cut out stuff out of magazines and create like a big old 3-ring binder. And she actually had a lot of her tablescapes photographed, and she wanted to have a book called Phronzie's Tables. So I watched her set up tables, but I really was not into it. Like, I didn't even walk over and look at it that closely. But for some reason, I suppose it must have been seeping into me.
Yeah, or in your genetics. Yes. So this is my next question. You work with your mom.
Yes, I do.
So what is that about?
Yeah, when she lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I grew up. But when I was pregnant, she decided to move here and be closer to family. And obviously, it was a natural fit. She was flying in to help me with shoots and book shoots, but it just made sense for her to be closer. So she comes over not every day, but days we shoot. So I swear she's a better stylist than I am. I'm better at the business side and the blogging side, but she's just very good at pulling together a table. And then I kind of step in and tweak it and make changes and kind of know what's on trend and all that. But she's just really good at, if I want to do a DIY napkin ring, I'll make one as like a prototype, and she'll go make another 7 because she just loves that. So yeah, it's a good team thing.
And how is it working with your mom? Has it brought you guys closer?
It's good. Sometimes she'll design something that I think is horrific and bless her, and I have to kind of like let her down gently. But the good thing is that I can still be myself. Like if I say, I don't feel good, like you go on, go do your thing today, as opposed to someone else where you always have to kind of tiptoe and say, well, I like that shade, but let's try another one. Like I don't have to do that with her. I could just be a little bit more frank, which is nice and time saving. So.
Wow. And now, but your books, okay, so you're a cookbook author, and your books are these beautiful desserts and treats. And can you tell us about how that started and how you got into that?
Yes. So about 2 months after I went full time with Pizzazzery, so this is probably 6 months after I started the website, I was on Twitter and I did a giveaway for a wedding book that just talks about how to throw really pretty Southern weddings. And when I was facilitating the giveaway, so when I was trying to figure out how to get the winner her book, the publisher, the editorial assistant who was emailing me asked me if I would ever consider writing a book, to which I'm like, yeah, I would like to, but there's no way. I mean, there's no way. And she said, well, I'm going to put you in touch with one of my editors. And then in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, this is nuts, But the editor called me and said, we talked about a few things. I wanted a party book, and they said, no. We have these things called push-up pops, and I knew what they were. They were kind of a dessert trend at the time. And
can you explain what they are?
Yeah, they're a little bit like those Flintstones ice cream pops with a little container, and you push up the bottom. But people were putting other things besides popsicles in them. So they were putting like cake in them or drinks in pie, like anything you could put in a little container, like a parfait type of deal. And so she said, would you write like a niche book on these? And I'm thinking, not exactly what I wanted, but look what this might be able to do for me. So like, yes, of course I will do that. And so then I started on that book, and they had another one called Candy Making for Kids, and they did not have an author. It had been signed with a photographer. And so it was kind of a crazy, like I stepped in halfway, but I said yes to it and did those to back. And then I pitched frostings and said I'd love to do a book on frostings. There was not one at the time. Did frostings. Then I kind of took a break, had a baby, and then I'd still been asking for this party book for years. No, they tell me no, And then they had a new editor come from Simon & Schuster to the publisher that I work with, and she called me and said that she had pitched one at editorial team meeting, and they had said they'd love to do a party book now, and they mentioned my name, and she called me, and I probably passed out, and so that's my like signature book. It's the name of my site. It's what I always wanted, and it came out last fall. But that's kind of how the books happened. They're kind of love projects. It's totally different than blogging. Blogging, you create and you could have it up within 30 minutes. The book, you create and you see it again a year and a half later. But they're both fun. They're both great.
Wow. And are there similar, because the books are just, everything you do is beautiful. Oh. The books, though, are so beautiful. And I've seen them, like, at the bookstore. And I'm like, I know her. I know who she is.
It's crazy. I don't photograph the books, but I'm thankful for really great photographers. So it's wonderful. It's been great. And I did a book tour with a couple of them, and it's so fun. And I think brands really like to see that I have products out there. I think that it helps differentiate me. The blogging community is quite saturated. So you just kind of have to find ways to stand out. It's not impossible to start a blog now, but I think the books help me stand out. And they just show that this is something I'm in for the long haul, that this is creating content, whether it's for a book, whether it's for a blog, whether it's for a magazine. I don't care where it really goes. I just love to create it. So
that's amazing. Now, here's a question. Are books money makers, or is it really to create this reputation, something that you can then, say to brands, look what I've done? Like, how do you see it?
It would be the latter. They are not a money maker, and I could sit here and try to tell you, oh yeah, it's great, but to be honest with you, and I would rather be honest with all bloggers, they're not money makers unless you're at the top of the New York Times bestseller list for months, and so they're just not. And you do it for the love of the project, and you do it for what it might potentially help you do down the road. And I think I'm able to charge more for brands because of the books. Right. I think that it helps. It differentiates me. It sets me apart. But they're not money makers. You do make money. You don't go under or negative, but you just don't make a ton. There's just all those things that go into it by the time that, the physical book is made, and mine are all hardback. So that there's just, the prices, you just don't end up with all that much by the time the publisher's paid and everybody's paid, and what something's discounted sometimes. It's all kind of, by the time the dust all settles, you're not walking away with that much. But to me, I find it such a passion project that it's all worth it.
That's so nice. Okay, so let's talk about monetization then. How do you monetize?
Yes, so
as a blogger,
a few ways I make money, which is a good tip to have. So you don't want all your eggs in one basket. So the number one, when I look at my finances at the end of the year and I can see where it all came in, I am making most of my money off brand partnerships. So that is where I'm making the bulk of what pays the bills. The second way I make money is ad revenue. So when people visit my site, that ad revenue. My page views are not what they used to be, and I don't know many bloggers that are having higher page views. It all kind of just settle out, and I have a theory on that. But anyway, but so
what's your theory? What's your theory?
Well, especially for what I do. So Instagram and Pinterest are so huge now. I'll just explain it using Instagram because it's easier. So if I want to see a gorgeous table and I'm scrolling Instagram and I see Courtney post a pretty table and I see a picture of it, that gives my wheels turning to design something. I don't need to go to her blog and see 6 other angles of it. So I'm basically handing it over on social media. Now, food bloggers still have great page views, and my recipes still do well. Why? Because they see the cookie and they need to go to the blog to get the recipe, or they need to go to the blog to get the DIY. But if pure just tablescape, you can get enough of what you want without clicking through. So there's no real incentive. But that's okay because my brand partnerships pay me more for a tablescape. So it all settles out in the end. But ad revenue is definitely more of a consistent thing, where brand partners may not be. You don't know who's going to come down the pipeline. But
now, are you reaching out to? Are you reaching out to brands, or are they reaching out to you?
They're reaching out to me. I don't have a problem reaching out to brands, but my feelings monetarily would be that I might make more if they come to me. If I go to them, I'm going to have a hard time swallowing the rate at which I'm going to throw at them. So I've been lucky that I've had brands come to me, and I've been able to pick and choose brands that I think are a good fit for my audience. But they come to me, and then ad revenue, and then the third would be affiliate and royalties. So those are kind of at the end of the list of the 3 ways I make money. So, yep.
Got it. Can you walk through what it's like when a brand reaches out to you and how that process works?
Sure. So it's usually an email, and they kind of tell me that they want to partner. It's usually from an ad agency or a PR firm. Not an ad agency, mostly a PR firm. Sometimes it's directly with the brand, but I would say 80% of the time it's with a PR firm, one that I've likely worked with before, but it's a different contact. And they email and say, we'd love to set up something for Easter using our product, our potato chips, or whatever the brand is. And then I usually go back and say, are y'all thinking recipe development, or are you thinking more party setup? Because that's kind of the 2 fields I play. And so then they say, what are the rates for both, and they kind of want to know the options. And I go back and I quote them a rate. I don't have a media kit because every project's different.
Okay.
I don't like media kits. Anyway, I think it's a waste of time, because I'll have one brand that wants a table that ends up being so simple, and I'll have another that wants a table that they want 3 DIYs all over the table that took me 2 weeks longer. So if I put a rate on a tablescape, I'm hurting myself. So then we go back and forth, and they agree. And usually they're wanting a blog post, and then they wanted me to send that blog post to all social media channels. So it would be a post on, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. Google Plus maybe, although I swear I think the Google Plus might be headed downhill, but I still sometimes hop on there. But anyway, so then I'll create the content. More so now than I've ever seen, they want to review it, which is sometimes a headache, but you just you factor it in. Then once they reviewed it, you just hope there's no reshoot, and if there is, I have a reshoot fee if I followed all the guidelines given to me. And then I write up the draft. They can review the verbiage, make sure that I've followed the FTC guidelines of disclosing that it's a sponsored post and all those details, and that I've represented their product in the way they want, that also feels right for me. Then the post goes up. Sometimes they want analytics later. Sometimes they don't. So it depends on the partnership. But usually I'm just creating a recipe, and then I'm photographing it, or I'm creating a table setup, and then I'm photographing it. That's kind of a start to finish. And
And
I pepper
how
those.
long how long would you say a project takes?
If it's a single post and not a year-long ambassador program, so if it's like a single post, which a lot are, I'd say about a month. Usually they'll come to me a few weeks before an event like the Oscars if they want me to do something for that. And then I'll have to kind of create it in about 2 to 3 weeks. Then they might want to review it that final week, make any changes, and then it'll go up live. So about a month. They can come to me sooner or with less time, but it just depends on if I can pull it off or not.
Got it. Now, in terms of then social media, kind of where are you? What works with Pizzazzery?
Yeah, social media is so huge, and it always has been. I say that social media follower numbers really help me with brands because I'm even getting some brands reaching out wanting only posts on social. So that's just how important social is. And especially because, like I said, people might only view the content on Instagram. So it doesn't quite behoove a company to come to me and only want a blog post. So some may say, we don't even want it on the blog. We want 3 Instagrams, you know? So Instagram is my number one spot that I'm sitting on daily as a user and also interacting. Facebook's there. Their algorithm stresses me out, but Instagram is where I'm getting DMs, people asking where those napkins are from or wherever. And sometimes, as far as back to ad revenue, I do create some content for some companies' Instagram pages that never sees mine or my blog, but like Bath and Body Works, I'll create some almost as like a hired stylist photographer. So sometimes bloggers can get a little bit of an ad revenue stream that way. So like creating content for brands, but it's never coming through the sponsored channel of your own blog. You're just helping them create something.
Do you get tagged in those, or are you really just behind the scenes?
Depends. If I am making, sometimes we've negotiated that. So I'll take a lower rate if I can get tagged, but typically the follow throughs are not what I would want them to see that. So typically I just charge enough that I don't care if right. they don't tag me. Essentially it looks like Bath and Body Works shot the photo, which I don't care at the end of the day. I'm hired as a photographer for that. And I don't care where it goes once I have a rate that I like.
Right.
And it was like, then I have a problem. But I mean, I'm my contract is not for print with them. So
can you talk about, we don't have to get into specifics, but how you think about your rate? Because bloggers tend to kind of not know. And my advice is always think about how many hours you think something will take you. Figure out what you would want to make per hour. Come up with that number and then double it.
Oh, for sure. I was about to say whatever.
So tell me, like, how do you think about when you're coming up with a rate?
Yeah. First of all, recall very quickly that you have to take the taxes off of that. So I talked to my accountant, and there's not an exact number from year to year, but I tend to take 30% off of that. And then in my head, that's what I might be able to take home. And that's a huge difference so you might say, a company came to me for something for $5,000 and I go, oh my gosh, $5,000 and that is being waved in my face and I want to say yes to that, but step back and realize it's not going to be $5,000 that you take away. So set your standards there and then recall all the things that you're going to have to go buy. So like especially a tablescape, I own a lot of things, but food and flowers are expensive, and so I will have to go and get all those things, drive to all those places, come back, create it, style it, hope it's not raining on the day I want, hope the flowers don't die and have to rebuy them. These are things that have happened to me. So all of those things happen, and then I'm photographing, I'm editing, and also just the time and energy, and you don't want to take too many sponsored posts, so be careful. I would rather work less and make more, and so now I'm at a place where like if I take a tablescape from a company, I want to basically, like, I think I'm making now what I did a few years ago. It would take me 5 tablescapes for clients to make what I now charge for 1. Well, that sounds more fun to me. So, and brands are understanding the value of it. And a lot of this content lives on forever. So you might feel scary when you hit that send button with that rate, but send it. And you're shocked when they come back and say yes. And then you're like, oh my actual heavens, like they said yes to this. And so unless it's a scary number, don't send it. I mean, double it. Like, you're worth it and your value. And you kind of can figure out a little bit that you're worth it if you go throw an affiliate link onto something and then you see all the people that buy it. You're like, oh my gosh, they listened to what I had to say, and then you realize that brands should be paying for that because you're able to to get things sold. And that's ultimately the point. So they're not, they want beautiful content, but the point is that they hope that when they see something styled on a table, that your followers are going to go buy it and do it. And so I love to be able to see that on the affiliate side, that I actually can get that action by a reader to happen,
And I would say for me, becoming a mother has made me a better negotiator. And the reason is I just don't have a lot of time. So when somebody will come to me to catch my party and say, hey, we want to work with you, I take my advice, which is I'll think, okay, what should I be paid for this? But I know that I am not counting in all the hours of driving to the store and buying the flowers that die and all of that. And so I know to double it. But then I get this like feeling in the pit of my stomach where I think, oh my God, I can't send this. Oh my God. But then I think I'm too busy. I'm too crazy busy. So what I do is I press send, and then I think I'm going to be so busy in 5 more minutes that I won't ever be able to think about it again. And if they get back to me and say yes, great. And if they don't, I'll probably forget about it.
Right.
So instead, I don't have the time to be freaking out in my head about the fact that, oh my God, I can't believe I asked for that. And I will tell you more often than not, the brand comes back and says yes.
That's true. So before I had my daughter, who's 3 now, before I had her, what I would do to myself is think, and again, I worked from home, no kids. Okay, so I had time to kill. So if a brand came to me, I felt like I tried to give a rate that they would say yes to, because I had time, right? Like, I don't have anything going on the next week. I can do it. So I might as well make at least $1,000. I'll just quote them 1,000 because I have time to give. Now, I would like to make more, but I want to make sure they take it, right? I want to make sure they say yes to the rate, and I have the time. So that's the game I played. Then when I had Blakely, I didn't have the time to give. So if they wanted me to do it, I was going to have to like get someone to watch her while I went and did it. So I charged so much so that if they said yes, I wasn't resentful. Well, what's happened is I make a whole lot more now that I have a daughter, that I play, I don't play dirty, but I play like, I guess, if here's my rate, here's what I can pull off. And I should have been charging that rate back when I had all the free time, but instead I was like, well, I don't have anything else to do. I'll do it for that rate, right? But now there's other stuff to do. So I play, I'm going to give you this rate, and we're not going to go back and forth a lot. Like, here's what I can do. And they take it. And I'm like, why did
they take it
back then? And so then you're like, oh goodness, now I have to try to figure out how to get this done with a child. But you know what? Because I charged what I did, I'm no longer resentful. I'm not at the craft store at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night being resentful. I'm like, oh man, they said yes, but look what I'm going to get, because now I'm not. Resentful is the worst thing that can happen when you're like, gosh darn it, like I said this, and then now the daughter's sick, but I agreed to this for lower than I should have, and nobody's happy then, right? So
exactly. And now you can send her to college.
Right. And I do think that you might say, I feel like if I were a blogger and I was hearing this right now, I would think, yeah, but what happens if they don't, and then you don't make any money that month? Okay. So that's why I do really, even though social media is really important, and even though some brands are wanting only posts on social is not going to give you that monthly ad revenue. And though I don't make a lot on ad revenue, it is consistent. Now, yeah, it's higher in the holiday months because the traffic's higher in the holiday months. But that is why I think it's important to work on your blog and your page views, at least in some capacity, because then you can play the game where you can take a brand project if you want it, or say no if it's not a fit, or if they say no to your rate, you can say no problem. But you can't do that a lot if you have no money coming in any other way, right? So you want to get those page views up to get that ad revenue, so you can get some of your basic mortgage, the electrical bill.
Yes,
that's covered, and those things are safe, which it's not totally that way for me, but kind of. Then I can play the game with brands where I'm only going to take the ones I love, and you're going to pay the rate I want, or I don't need to do it, right? So that's when you're in a good sweet spot, and it takes a little bit to get there, but know the value of your time. It's so huge.
If you're learning from Courtney in this episode, you might find it interesting that she has been a long-time MiloTree customer. She grows her Instagram with her MiloTree pop-up. If you are thinking of working with brands in 2019, I recommend you sign up for MiloTree. I welcome you to sign up for MiloTree, test it out, get your first 30 days free, and watch your followers on Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook or YouTube or your email list. Grow faster. And now back to the show. And I definitely recommend you do blog, that you do own your blog, that you do focus on your blog, because at the end of the day, as we've seen with social media, you're just a sharecropper on social media.
Yeah.
So you want to own something.
Yeah, you don't own your account on Instagram. Like, you don't. They can shut it down. I mean, they can end Instagram and move to something else, and then all those followers you spent so long building up, what do you have now? So
yeah.
Grow your email list. That's huge. Grow your blog. Those are important things that you can control. And they can actually give you a passive income, which is so huge. But if you have free time, don't quote lower because you have nothing going on. That free time would be better spent taking a few online courses, listening to podcasts. Like, I would do some online photography, food courses, creating your own content that you can then drive traffic to your site, rather than creating sponsored stuff for cheaper than you should be paid,
Absolutely. Now, Courtney, how many hours a week do you work, given that you have a 4-year-old?
How many hours are in a week? Because that would probably be it. No, I'm embarrassed to say more than I want. I don't start and end because I have a toddler. It starts and ends all the time. So I don't work like an 8-hour day. I work all over the place, but it's constant. I don't even know if I could put a number on it. If I'm not physically at the computer or on my phone, my brain's still thinking about it, unless I'm literally in front of my daughter. And so some might say that's just not real healthy. And what I say to that is, at least I found something that I love that I can't get out of my head.
Right.
So all the time, probably 9-hour days if you actually had to put a number to it. So.
And the one thing that I would say about working with your daughter, because I've seen posts of yours where your daughter will mimic what you do, and she wants to put together tables. And I think that, I have a daughter too, I think that is such a great thing for our daughters to see.
Yes. She's not exactly sure what I do, but she knows I set tables, and we had a little table made for her and little chairs. And sometimes I'll have like extra fabric scraps or like old plates I know I won't use. And I have a big old bin in my prop room of stuff like that, like plastic cutlery. And I let her set the table, and she doesn't want to quote play house. Like, she wants to quote play party. And I kind of hope she doesn't go to the house sometime and say like, we went to a birthday party recently and she asked where the hats were, and I'm like, Blakely, hush it, And I'm like, but I think I've loved having her be able to incorporate kind of what I do into her daily routine, because she's got to kind of come along with me, because this is what I do. And, I think it's fun. And when she was little, she got like a little toy, like a Leapfrog laptop, and she would sit there and pretend to work with me. And that's just the reality. And I do stop and, focus on Blakely a lot. And she's at a little preschool. So that's when I kind of go hardcore work, And when she gets home, I sort of play in the prop room and have fun with her. But I think it's important to let them see that we work, and it's not just behind the closed doors, just at a computer thing. So it's fun.
Exactly. So now, what about your business are you most excited about?
Oh gosh, how it's morphing. And I think so many bloggers are like, I won't do video, or I won't ever write a book, or I don't. And to me, a lot of those things do scare me. Writing a book scared me. Doing video scared me. But if you want to stay in this industry, then it's like a big wave pool. Like, get your floaties on and ride the wave. And so video,
I love that.
I don't totally love being in front of the camera, but I just shot 2 full days of video because that's what the brand wanted. And okay, I'm on it, And I wasn't totally comfortable shooting still photography 8 years ago either, but I figured it out. You figure it out and you get comfortable with it, because that's where you have to go. I'm most excited about maybe another book. I don't know. It's on the table. It would be a love passion project again, because we already talked about how books and once you have 4, it's like, what 5 really is a passion project for me. So that maybe a product line. I'm in some talks. We'll see. Those kind of things. So different stuff. I will always love creating content for the blog. That's the bread and butter. But I think these offshoot things that don't necessarily make you a ton, that's what keeps it interesting. So 8 years later, you got to find something that's going to keep it interesting. And I think that definitely helps. So those are the things I'm most excited about. And I'm actually,
that's wonderful.
A new social media platform pops up. I'm like ready for another one. I get kind of bored with those. I mean, I'll keep on pinning and keep on doing Instagram, but I kind of hope somebody else pops up with a new one.
Oh, that's funny. Now, what are you growing with MiloTree right now on your blog?
I actually think I have it set to two different things. I rotate. I like to rotate and see which one does better. But I think maybe right now it's on Pinterest. I'd have to check. I like to change it. And sometimes I have it on my email newsletter. I also like that.
Got it.
But I like the ability to rotate around.
Great. Now, if you had one piece of advice for a blogger starting out, let's say who's in our space and wants to do something creative, maybe with parties, crafting, recipes, something like that, what would it be?
What I tell people, I call it the Monday morning test. This would apply to any genre, but you could certainly apply it to like an entertaining blogger or food blogger. So if you're listening to this and you kind of want to start a blog, maybe your Instagram's taken off and you're thinking, do I launch this to a blog? Then I call it the Monday morning test, because if you get up, if what you're doing does not get you up and out of that bed at like 6 a.m. on a Monday, then you shouldn't be doing it. So when I left my job at the Career Center and I thought, oh my gosh, I love to sleep and I'm so not a morning person, how on that first Monday am I going to get up and do this? Well, I was up at like 5 o'clock, ready to go. And that's how I knew I was in the right field. So especially works if you're a night owl, or if you're a morning person, what keeps you up at midnight thinking about it? That's how you know that you're in the right space. So though you might love setting pretty party tables, if you can't get up and on that computer and read ebooks about blogging and listen to podcasts about blogging and learn about photography, then you shouldn't be doing it. So all those things have to happen and you got to be up and going. So do that Monday morning test and that'll tell you whether or not you can kind of do this crazy job we're in. It's so rewarding, but you got to be able to kind of get up that Monday morning at 6 a.m. And not every Monday morning, that's just a metaphor, but you know what I mean? You got to be able to really want it, because you'll work harder than you did at that day job, but the work is better. I can stop for a moment if someone calls me. I can go and have lunch with a friend, but I'll make up the hours later. But that you have to have enough self-drive. So if you're not driven, don't hop in. Create the parties for your friends and make recipes, but don't make it a business. Only make it a business if you like the business side of things. So learning about plugins, learning about finances and taxes, it's all worth it if you really love what you're doing, but just don't forget about that side of the business.
I love that. Okay, what is the one tool that you could not live without?
Any tool? Oh.
Any kind of tool that you use?
Besides the camera, I love the MiloTree plugin. I love anything that helps me grow my social media following.
Oh, thanks for that.
Oh my gosh, probably my camera, and I edit in Camera Raw. I know I should use Lightroom. I don't understand it. There's me as a blogger needing to go do an e-course, and just because I've been doing this for 8 years does not mean I know everything. So there's an example of something I need to learn on my own. But I would say that camera lets me take that content and edit it and make it beautiful. And without that, I'm stuck. So I would say that Photoshop and Camera Raw are where I edit. Besides that, some great plugins on your site, like we talked about. Definitely be on WordPress. That's the platform you should be on. Those are the tools of the trade. There's not any other.
What kind of camera do you have?
I have a Canon Mark D3, like the.
Okay.
It has like 4 names, but Mark D3. I think that's what it's called. I've had it a long time. But my favorite lenses, if you're listening and you shoot food photography or table photography, I really love the 51.4, the 100 macro, the 100 macro for food, and then the one I pick up most often for tables or life. Although it's heavy, it's the 2470. You can get in. It's the only zoom lens I use. So
wonderful.
That's really my favorite lenses that I use.
Awesome. Well, Courtney, how can people reach out to you? How can they find you?
Yes. Pizzazzery.com. It's kind of spelled funny. Jillian will probably.
Can you spell it?
Yeah. Pizzazzezrie. And it's kind of a combination of the word pizzazz and patisserie, pizzazzery, if you're curious. So the best way is to reach out to me, Courtney@pizzazzery.com, or DM me on Instagram. That's probably where I would see it first. So email or Instagram. I'm on all the social channels, just at Pizzazzery on all of them. So Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, all the things. So find me there. I'd love to chat with you. If you had a question I didn't get to here, then just come ask away. But hopefully I've inspired you if you're interested in blogging or want to know more. It's a fun job and it's so rewarding. And I think it's just so great, especially for kind of women entrepreneurs or men. Either way, I convinced my brother, he's a food blogger in upstate New York. So I convinced him to be a food blogger after he finished his PhD. So I can pretty much convince anybody to be a blogger if you come find me.
I love that. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes, thank you. This was such a pleasure.
I invite you to head to MiloTree.com to get your own Instagram pop-up or Pinterest pop-up or Facebook pop-up or YouTube pop-up or email list pop-up and try it out for yourself. Remember, you get your first 30 days free, and then it's just $9 after that. If you have any questions, reach out to me at Jillian@MiloTree.com.